Hi, hello, welcome back to the class, everyone. So, the hard copy are tangible computed outputs. The following are devices which provide hard copy outputs. So, hard copy outputs are the copies which we can touch. It is tangible. Okay, we can touch it and we can see it. We can touch it and feel it actually. So, first device is the printers or is the printer. So there are two types of printers, and those two types are impact printers and non-impact printers. So impact printers are examples for dot matrix printers and line printers, right? Non-impact printers are laser printers, bubble printer or inkjet printer, and thermal printer. So there are differences between all these printers, right? So now we'll see what is the meaning of impact. Impact mean the impact printers are a primary level device in the printing technology. It is the primary. First of all, when they found or when they invented the printers, the primary level device of the printer were the impact printers. Impact printer refer to a class of printers that have a head or needle which strike against an ink ribbon to make a mark on the paper. So this is an impact printer. There is a head or a needle. There is a small head or needle which impacts to the ink. There is a ribbon. Okay, that ribbon is the ink. So there is a ribbon in this printer. There is a long ribbon. Then the things which are written in the paper will be written by this or by using this head or the needles. So there is an impact happening when we are printing. In the printing process, there is a needle which impacts against the ink ribbon and make the mark on the paper. Okay, so that's why see these letters how they are created. See dots. So impact, an impact is happening there. Its function is too noisy. Okay, there is a noise coming when it prints. However, since the ink ribbon used is not expensive, this is used in banks and shops for printing receipts, etc. The following are some of the impact printers. So, okay. So, impact printers are uh, impact printers are not expensive actually because the ribbon is not expensive. When the ribbon is finished or the ink of the ribbon finishes, we can buy it. It is not that expensive to buy uh, the parts of this printer. So most of the people are using these printers in the bank and in the shop to print the receipts and all these things because it is not that much expensive, all these impact printers, right? So one of the examples of impact printer is the dot matrix printer. Dot matrix printer, letters are printed on the paper as small dots. Here when the printer's head strikes on the ink ribbon with needle like tips. So as you see here, if you want to see more information about the dot matrix in printer, dot matrix printer, you can go to the YouTube and find these printers. Actually it produces a noise. Okay, so it is disturbing sometimes. Okay, next one is the line printer. So line printer is a fast printer which prints one row at a time. This can print about 3,000 lines per minute. Per minute it prints 3,000 lines. So it is very very fast to print. So these are used like in printing magazines and all these things. They are using such kind of printers, right? So these are used to be print with the head or with the needle with an impact, right? That's why these are called as impact printer. So next one is non-impact printers. Non-impact printers doesn't operate by striking a head against a ribbon. Here there is no ribbon and there is no head. Hence, it is not noisy. Also, it is not noisy. You know, these kinds of printers are used nowadays at schools, at hospitals, at houses. Okay, so these printers are used. Mostly, these printers are used. It doesn't produce any noise. The printouts are better quickly. Okay, it prints very quickly. Running cost of these printers are more expensive than impact printers. So comparing with the impact printer, these printers are very expensive than the impact printers. The following are some of the non-impact printers. Example are laser printer. So laser printer, I think you have seen these laser printers. Laser printer, it has a toner, dried ink. A toner, dried ink. The ink is like dust, okay, like dusty ink. In a cartridge. So this is a cartridge. It is long. Is applied on the paper to produce the printout. Both black and white as well as color laser printers are available. The laser printer produces clear and quality printout. Very quality printout and clear printouts. Okay. So nowadays most of the people are printing using this non-impact printer or using these laser printers because very neat, very clear, very quick. Okay, and also the quality is very good. Okay, better than the other printers, but expensive. If the cartridge finishes, you should buy the cartridge, and the cartridges are very expensive. As I remember, before 5 or 10 years, I think a cartridge cost at about 7,000 rupees or something. So nearly 10,000 rupees if you are buying one cartridge, right? So it is very expensive. Next, bubble printer or inkjet printer. These printers are using an liquid ink, and it is stored in the printer itself. We call them as cartridge also, right? Cartridge ink is deposited on paper through small nozzles and produce the print. There are some small nozzles, and liquid ink is used in these bubble or inkjet printers. Thermal printer, it is used in shopping malls like Food Cities or in Apico, ASB, No Limit. All these places are using this thermal printer. Actually, how it prints here, heat is used to print the document. There is a heatness produced inside this printer. So the heat is used to print the document. It is commonly used in business to print receipts in devices such as like ATM and in printing labels. So if you know these printers, you can see it in Food Cities also, at Food Cities. So after they print this receipt, when you touch it, okay, when you take it to your hand, you will feel a small heatness in it, right? So it heats and print the needed document. Next one is plotter. So these plotter printers are used to print plans like house plans, and all these plans are printed by using these plotter printers. This is commonly used in computer-based planning, architectural designs, town planning, designing sailing boats, etc. A plan is drawn by moving a pen on the paper. So there is a small pen here. When this pen is moved, whatever the plan we gave it to the, or we gave it to the computer, will print it out for us. Okay. Next one, sound produce. How it produces the sound, or how it outputs the sound. They use these speakers and headphones to produce the sound from the computer. So sounds are not hard copy or soft copy, it is sound, you know. The device which gives a sound output is called speaker. Speaker devices are designed for personal and common purpose, right? Okay. So now you know how the computer gives the output. It gives the output as hard copy, soft copy, or as sounds. You know what is a hard copy, you know what is a soft copy, and you know now what is a sound, right? So we learned about the input devices and the output devices of the computer system. So remember, we are learning about the hardware, right? The hardwares of the computer. Next one, the central processing unit, which is the most important computer part in the computer, right? Okay, so CPU or central processing unit or brain of the computer. Okay, all these are similar names of the CPU. And this CPU, without this CPU, a computer will not work actually. Okay, just think, will you? For an example, I will show you a CPU, and maybe you have seen a CPU before, and most of the people have wrong thought about the CPU also. So I will show you what is a CPU here, the central processing unit. Hope you remember when we learned it in the first chapter, the CPU or the processor. We call it as CPU or the processor. Right. So this is a CPU or a processor. It is not big. It is a small one, like a Munchie chocolate biscuit, a size of a Munchie chocolate biscuit. And this is a most important part in the computer. Okay. So why we call it as the most important part of the computer? Because all the processing things, whatever the thing or whatever the data you enter to the computer should be processed, right? For an example, you are using the computer to process the data, isn't it? So all the processing act is done by this processor. So imagine, without a processor, will a computer work? No. Okay, for an example, we can compare this processor to a kitchen. For an example, compare the computer to a kitchen. Okay, there is a kitchen at your house, and you have there is a kitchen at your house, and there are all the ingredients and all the needed things are there in the kitchen, but the chef is not there. Okay, now imagine how you are going to eat without the chef. There should be someone to make the food, isn't it? Without the person who makes the food, we can't get the food from the kitchen. So there should be someone to process the food, right? To make the food. So without this chef or the mother, in common, the mother or the chef or whoever who makes the food, if there is no chef, then it is not that means the need of the kitchen is not important, right? Not used. Like the kitchen wants a chef to make the food, the computer needs a processor to process the data. Without this processor, the computer will not be able to process the data. Also, we call this processor as the brain of the computer. So now I think you have realized how important this processor is needed to the computer. So it is also called as the processor, as the CPU, central processing unit, or as the brain of the computer. It is called with many names. So if someone asks you where is this processor is located, this processor is located on the motherboard, and on that a fan is placed. I think I have yes, I teached you these things last week also. So I told you why this fan is fitted on the processor, because the processor is doing all the work in the computer and it gets heat, and then the heatness should be or the processor should be cooled down. So for that we are using this fan. and this is the CPU. There are 3 parts in the CPU. Okay, I think you can remember we learned about the architecture of the computer system last week, right? So these are the 3 parts of the processor: the memory register, arithmetic and logical unit, and the control unit. So what each part does in this process, now we are going to learn that. Okay, right. So the arithmetic and logical unit, as I told you last time, it performs all the mathematical and the logical functions like adding the numbers, multiplying the numbers, dividing the numbers, minusing the numbers, all these basic mathematical operations, and comparing the numbers are the logical operations. Control unit controls all the devices of the computer system, like the input devices, output devices, memory, storages, and all these things are controlled by the CU or the control unit. And the MR or the memory register, it temporarily stores data needed for the function of ALU and the information produced by ALU. So whatever the thing we goes to the main memory, you know the main memory, okay, goes to, and we will learn about the main memory also. So whatever the thing goes to the main memory, it sends to the CPU, right? So after the data goes to the CPU, it takes the data to the CPU, and first of all it stores in the memory register. Then the memory register sends it to the ALU to be processed. After processing them, again the information will be sent to the main memory, and then only the main memory sends it to the memory register, and then only it sends to the main memory. So now you know what are the things are done by each of these computer parts, or by each of these CPU parts or components. And the computer speed, the unit used to measure the clock speed, unit which we measure the clock speed of a computer is hertz, and the units used to measure computer speed are megahertz or gigahertz. So whatever the speed we are measuring of the computer is measured by megahertz and gigahertz. For an example, if you are measuring a liquid thing, water or oil or whatever liquids, when you are measuring all these things, you measure with the unit of liter and milliliter, right? When you are measuring the weight of a thing, you measure it with gram or kilogram. Likewise, when we measure the speed of the computer, we use the megahertz and gigahertz, right? Okay. So that's it about the CPU. Next one is the computer memory. So these also most important things of the computer. So computer memory is divided into 2, like main memory and the secondary memory or auxiliary memory. Okay, secondary memory or auxiliary memory. Main memories are actually 3 types. Here one is missing: random access memory, read-only memory, and cache memory. Okay, there are 3: random access memory, read-only memory, and cache memory. Cache memory we will learn here is cache memory. Okay. So several computer memory or storage devices are used to store data and information, and the functions of each are different. Computer memory can be classified as follows. As I told you, it is divided into 2: main memory, secondary memory or auxiliary memory. Main memory are 3 types: random access memory, read-only memory, and cache memory, right? So why we are using these storage devices, or why we are using these memory devices, computer memories? We are using these computer memories to store our data and information. Whatever the data information in our computer, we should store it somewhere, right? Either it can be permanently or temporarily, we should store them. For that, we are using this computer memory, right? Okay. Let's have a look in the main memories. What are the main memories? Random access memory is often referred as the main memory. Okay, so mostly when we talk about something or when we talk about the main memory, we refer to the RAM, right? For an example, when I showed you this diagram last week, when I showed this diagram, I told you, that when we input something to the computer, for the first time it goes to the main memory, isn't it? So the main memory I referred to the RAM. To the RAM. I told it goes to the RAM. Then the RAM sends it to the memory register. Then the memory register sends it to the ALU. Then ALU sends it again to the main memory. Again it will be sent to memory register, and then again it will be sent to the main memory, and the main memory gives the output, right? So when I talked about the main memory, I referred it to the RAM. So mostly when you talk about the main memory, you refer it to the RAM, random access memory. Primary memory, the memory that can be directly accessed by the central processing unit, is called primary memory or storage. There are three types of primary memory, as I told you, right? There are three types of primary memory: random access memory, read-only memory, and cache memory. Let's see what is a random access memory. A RAM or a random access memory, it stores the data temporarily, not permanently. Only temporarily it will store the data. The data stored in RAM will be deleted when the computer is switched off. So when you open your computer, when it runs and comes to your desktop for the first time, it owns your computer. Whatever the work you do in the computer, it keeps it in its memory. Okay? Suddenly, if your computer switches off or if the electricity goes off, all the things which you used to do in the computer will be erased from the main memory or from the random access memory. Because of that, we call this RAM as a volatile memory. Why we call it as volatile memory? Because when the computer is on, it stores data temporarily, and when your computer switches off, all the data will be erased. That's why it is called as volatile memory. Data coming from input devices as well as data sent to output devices are held in RAM. You know that. I showed it in the architecture of the computer. When comparing to ROM, which is discussed after, this RAM has both read-write facility. So in RAM, we can read data and information, and also we can write data and information. What is read data information and write data information? Read and write data information means you can store data information. That's why we call it as read data information, write data information. Read data information mean we can take the data and information and see it, read it. So it reads the data and the information, also it writes data and information. So that's it about the RAM. So RAM stores data and information temporarily. When the computer is on, it stores all the data and information, and once when the computer is switched off, all the data and information will be erased. For that, it is called as volatile memory, and whatever the data and information inputted to the devices, to the computer, or whatever the data is sent to output devices are held by this random access memory. And when comparing with the RAM, in RAM we can read and write data. It has both facilities. Understood about the random access memory? Okay. If yes, put a yes, please, everyone. Because this is a what do you call, an important part. Okay, questions can come from this part. They might ask you what is the other name called for the RAM. Then you can give as volatile memory. Also, they will ask you what is a volatile memory from the below. They will give you 4 answers, and the question will be what is the volatile memory. Understood? And also they can ask you name a memory which stores data and information temporarily. Or they also can ask you name a memory which writes and reads both data and information, RAM. Now let's move on to the ROM. The data is read-only memory is not erased when the computer is switched off. Okay, so you can see the ROM. It is on the motherboard. It is fit on the motherboard actually. And the data which is provided to the ROM won't be erased. It is not erased when the computer is switched off. For that, we call this as non-volatile memory because it is not erasable. And the commands required for booting up a computer are stored in ROM. What is booting up a computer? We will learn about the booting up the computer on the chapter 5. Okay, I will give you a small idea about the booting of the computer. Booting the computer means when the computer is off, your computer is off, right? Now you are switching on the computer for the first time. When you are switching on the computer, a booting system is happening in the computer. Booting system means the operating system is booting to the RAM and then it starts working. Okay, so here the booting system is done, or the commands required for booting up a computer. Whatever the command required to boot up the computer is stored in the ROM. Who stored these booting requirements? Who stored these commands which are required to boot up the computer in the ROM? It is done by the manufacturing companies. The computer manufacturing companies are there now. They are the people who wrote these commands in the ROM. So these commands won't be erased ever, and no one can erase it. And write new commands to this ROM, we can't do it. Okay, now understood why it is called as ROM, read-only memory. It only reads whatever inside the ROM. So what is there inside the ROM? One is the command which are required to boot up a computer is stored in the ROM. So these commands are called BIOS. BIOS means basic input output devices. I think you have seen when some computers, when you on your computers, a black screen will come and they will say like checking BIOS. Checking BIOS means they are checking the input and output devices in your computer, whether they work or not. For an example, if your mouse is not working or if your battery is not working in your laptop, a message will come, error in battery. That means your battery is dead, it is not working. So it checks the input and output devices in your computer. Understood? So these commands are written by the computer manufacturing companies or stored by the computer manufacturing companies in the ROM with a small capacity. It is not a big capacity like GB, TB capacities. No, it is very, very small capacities because only the BIOS and the commands are written inside this ROM, and also it is only readable, not writable. And is connected to the motherboards. As you see here, this is a motherboard, so it is connected. We can't take it out. Now understood what is a ROM? So a ROM is a memory which is not erased. For that we call it as non-volatile memory. And what is written inside this non-volatile memory are the are the commands which are required to boot up the computer, and these commands are called as BIOS, in basic input output systems. And who wrote these BIOS, or who wrote these commands which are required to the booting system? It is written by the computer manufacturing companies and stored in the ROM. Also, it is a small capacity and it is connected to the motherboard. So now you know what is a what is a RAM and what is a ROM. These are main memories. Now let's go to the cache memory. Cache memory is an interesting one. Okay. So though this is smaller in capacity than other memories. So when you are buying these RAMs, there are capacities like 8 GB, like 16 GB. There are capacities. You can buy these RAMs, okay? But ROM, it is in small capacities. You are not buying these ROMs. You can buy RAMs externally. And cache memories, actually they are very small in capacities than the other memories, but it is very fast. This is also called CPU memory. Why this is called as CPU memory? Because this cache memory is inside the CPU. Okay, where inside the CPU we can't see it. And also when I am explaining you the CPU, I am not showing it to you, right? See, now I told you this cache memory is also called as the CPU memory, right? But I didn't explain you here that there is a CPU memory. There is a memory register, but I didn't tell you about the CPU memory. This CPU memory is between the main memory and the ALU here. Okay, it is like a broker. Understood? Let's see what does a cache memory do between this primary memory and the not within the primary, not within the register memory and this memory. It is within this primary memory and the CPU here. Okay, so it is also called as the CPU memory, but it is between the main memory and the CPU here. Okay, now let's see what it does. This acts as the mediator between CPU, central processing unit. It is like a mediator. You know what is a mediator. And primary memory. The data frequently used by are stored here. Frequently, often we use some data, right? So it knows when we often use data, it knows that I am often using this data. So what it does, it stores those data in the cache memory. Okay, right. The central processing unit checks cache memory first to see whether the required data is available for processing. However, if the required data is not available, then the data is fetched to cache memory from RAM for processing. So here what is happening, when someone sends a data to the CPU, it checks from the cache memory to see whether there is required data. The required data is in the cache memory or not. As I told you, often the frequently used data stored in the cache memory, right? So it checks there whether it is stored there. If it is stored there and exists, if there are data exist in, it fetches from the cache memory. It takes from the cache memory and process the data. If the data is not in the cache memory, then it checks from the primary memory and fetches from the primary. So after that, it fetches the data to cache memory from the primary memory and then sends these to the CPU. This is what happens with the cache memory. So now you know the three kinds of the primary memories, which are RAM, ROM, and the cache memory. Now we'll go to the secondary memory or the auxiliary memory. So secondary memory or the auxiliary memories are the memory or storage devices which we use to store data and information permanently. These storage devices are used to store data and information permanently. Okay, and also some of these devices are portable and there are some non-portable devices also. So these secondary storages are divided into three: magnetic media devices, optical media devices, and solid state devices. Examples for magnetic media devices are hard disk, floppy disk, and magnetic tape. Optical media devices are CD, DVD, and Blu-ray. Solid state devices are USB, flash drive, and memory card. So why they are divided into three like this? Because when we store data and information in these devices, the technology differs. Okay, the technology which are used to store data and information in these devices are different. That's why we divide it into three. Secondary memory or the secondary storage is the device which stores data and information permanently. This is also called external storage, also auxiliary storage. There are internal storage devices as well as external portable secondary storage devices. Secondary memory is called non-volatile memory since it doesn't erase when electricity is not available. So for an example, when the electricity goes off, the data and information won't be erased here. And also I wanted to give you an example. For an example, we'll say you are playing a game in your computer or in your using your smartphone. Suddenly it switches off, right? When you restart your computer or your phone, does it open as it switched off? Means all the applications were on when you are playing the game. When it switches on again, it switches on freshly, right? All the games are shut down or closed. Like that, it opens the computer. That's why we call this RAM as the as volatile memory, right? So here we call the secondary memory as non-volatile memory because when the computer shuts down or when the electricity goes off, the data and information won't be erased here or doesn't erase here. That's why we call them as non-volatile memory. And they are readable as well as writable. We can read data and information and we can write data and information in it. Okay, right. Magnetic media devices. So here data is stored by using magnetic field. A magnetic technology is used here to store data and information in the magnetic media devices. So example one is hard disk drive. So hard disk drive, there are two kinds. One is a portable hard disk drive and non-portable hard disk drive. And within this hard disk, there are many things, many parts. We should know these parts. Okay, right. The hard disk drive or HDD, which is commonly used to store data and information, is located inside the computer. Normally, these hard disks are located inside the computer. Inside the computer, and however there are external hard disks as well. Today there are hard disks with large capacity due to the development of the technology. So when the technology develops, the capacity of the hard disks also will increase. The user can read or write. The capacity of hard disk ranges from 250 GB to 4 TB. The maximum capacity will increase with technological development. And also these capacities might change when the technology develops. Okay, right. So hard disk is made of several components. So there are several components inside the hard disk. The first one is the platter, and this is a metallic, aluminium or ceramic disk, and data can store on both sides. In this both sides we can store data and information using magnetic media. There can be several platters in a hard disk. So not one platter, it is like a CD. Okay, the platter looks like a CD but not a CD, right? It is a magnetic device, and we can store data in both sides, and there are several platters in a hard disk, can be 4 5 platters. Okay, it is like aluminium, metallic, aluminium or ceramic disk. In this platter the data and okay, this platter is held by the spindle. So this is the spindle. See, this spindle rotates. When the spindle rotates, the platter also rotates with it. Then only we can write and read the data in it, right? And there is a head. This is the head. So the data and information which are read and written in the platter is done by the head. Reads the magnetic data in the platter and writes on the platter. There are two heads for a platter. A platter uses two heads, one on the top and one on the bottom. Imagine, okay? And you can go to the YouTube and also browse this the technology of the hard disk. You can find it there, right? And actuator arm. There is an actuator arm. This one, the fourth one, moves the head. It helps to move the head. Okay, the head should move, right? When we write so it should go here and there when write or read the data inside the platter, right? So it moves the head, enables reading and writing data anywhere in the platter. Next one is power connector. So this is the power connector. See, the fifth one. So connects the hard disk to power which is needed for its function. So whatever the power needed to the hard disk is provided by this power connector. Next one is IDE connector. IDE connector is transmits data to the platter. IDE connector transmits the data to the platter. And actuator, an electronic device which moves the arm connected to it. This is operated by a motor, and this is operated by a motor. So see, there are a lot of parts in the hard disk. So see here, there are several platters here, right? Like 3 or 4 platters are there, and each platter is having heads, okay, to write and read the data and information in it. And this is an external hard disk. So this is an internal hard disk. Internal hard disk, we can't take it here and there and connect it with whatever the computer we want and use the data and information in it. But the external hard disk, we can use them to transfer data and information and connect it with any other computer devices, right? So this is all about the hard disk. Next one is the magnetic tape. I think you haven't seen a magnetic tape, but magnetic tapes are also used to store data and information, and they are also called as cassette. Maybe your parents know about these, right? So these are called as cassettes. So used mostly in severe computers for backup due to its large storage capacity, but tape is not used in day-to-day life as it is slow in reading and writing. So nowadays it is not used actually. You also haven't seen these magnetic tapes, right? So these are not used. So here it is like a ribbon, a plastic ribbon inside, and all the data and information are stored in this ribbon. Okay, and it is not in use nowadays. Next one is optical media, right? So these are magnetic media devices. Second one is optical media devices. So here the data and information are written in the CD, DVD and the Blu-ray by laser beams. Do you know laser beams, guys? Have you heard about laser beams? So these are laser beams. These cannot be seen, right? Only the dot can be seen. So these are laser beams, and the data and information which are written in the CDs are using these laser beams to write and read the data inside the CD. Yeah, using for experimenting and all these things. These laser beams. Okay, so these are laser beams, right? Okay. So just think, will you, how powerful it is when we use it to write and read data from the, what do you call this, CDs and DVDs, isn't it? Right. Since data stored digitally on a disk is read and written by laser beams, it is called optical media. That's why we call it as optical media. Optical media is commonly used to carry data and information, and these are several types. So optical media we can carry and we can take it here and there wherever we go. Because of that, it is also called as portable. It is a portable device. So some of them are CD-ROM. So CD-ROM is used to read written data and instruction. Only to read written data and instruction are used. We use this CD-ROM, compact disk read-only memory. CD-R is compact disk written one, write one. Write ones mean compact disk, write ones mean in this CD you only can write one time. You insert the CD, you store data and information in the CD, and that's it. After that you can read it, but you can't write on it, only once. CD-RW is compact disk rewritable. Here you can write and then erase the written data and write again. Okay, it is erasable. You can write it. You can rewrite data and information on it. So the size of these CDs are from 650 till 900 MBs. Okay. Next one is DVD-ROM, digital versatile disk read-only memory. Here we can read and we can only read written data and instruction in it. DVD-R, as the CD-R, we can write only once. DVD-RW, we can write and erase in this device, and the capacity of it is 4.7 till 9.4 GB, the DVD. Next one is Blu-ray disc. So Blu-ray disc, there is BD. Blu-ray disc BD are recordable. We can record it. Can be used to write data and information once until the capacity is filled. Until it is filled, we can write the data and information. Blu-ray re-recordable, erasable. More data can be written many times until the capacity is filled. Rewritable and erasable and recordable. Blu-ray 3D is used to record videos. So the capacity from 25 GB till 28 GB, right? Okay. And guys, if you can go to the YouTube channel, and in grade 7, I think in grade 7, we learned about the storage devices. So more information are given in those books. If you can go and watch these videos in the YouTube channel. Okay. And don't forget to subscribe our channel and click on the bell icon. Also comment for the videos. Okay. And like the videos also. Next one is solid state devices. Why these are called as solid state devices? Since these devices contain solid parts and doesn't contain moving parts, they are called solid state devices. The CD, DVD, or the magnetic media and the optical media, all these medias reads and writes the data with moving parts, right? CD also moves, DVD also moves, and the magnetic tapes also move, right? So all these devices reads and writes data on it by moving parts. But in pen drive and memory cards, there are no moving parts. Because of that, they are called as solid state devices. So it is also a technology, right? They are used to read and write data and information. So USB flash drive, this has become a very popular secondary storage device due to its easy portability and the ability to read and write data fast. And you know, most of the people are using these pen drives nowadays to store data and information and transfer here and there. And because it is very easy to take it wherever you go, not like the external hard disk, right? You can just put it in your pocket, or else you can put it as a chain. You can take it anywhere you go. Memory cards also like that. This has the same function of USB flash drive. However, the method of connecting to the computer is different, and it is smaller in physical device. Also different when you are connecting to the computer. It is not using a USB port, right? This is used in digital cameras, mobile phones, and computer gaming devices. So these memory cards are used in phones. You know, in your phone there is a memory card, and also in gaming devices or in digital cameras you are using this memory card. So SD card or secure digital card is one of the examples, right? Now we'll see what are the computer ports. Most probably these computer ports you have learned it in your grade 8 book, if you can remember. Okay, right. So again I am teaching you this. The interfaces which connect computer with its devices or with other computers are called ports. So ports we use to connect the devices to the computer. Ports are positioned in the front or back of the computer. There are symbols to identify ports. All the ports are connected to the motherboard. Generally all the ports are connected to the motherboard, and it can be in the back side of the computer system unit or in front of the system unit. In the laptop you can find it by side of the laptop. Before, back of the laptop also they used to connect ports, but now it is not used like that, because most of the time we are using this what do you call this USB ports to connect the devices, right? So not only in the laptops but also in the computers or the desktop also, most of the devices which are now used in the as computer devices are used with the USB ports. You should keep it in your mind. Okay, for an example, the first two ports are called as PS2 ports. So PS2 ports are used to connect the keyboard and the mouse. But you know, nowadays keyboards and mouse ports are using USB ports, right? Universal Serial Bus ports. And then this one it is the parallel port used to connect printers. But you know, nowadays printers are connected using the USB port. These are HDMI ports. Okay, yes, these are HDMI ports, and most of the devices are using the HDMI ports, like the TV, television, the laptops are using these HDMI ports. Okay, HDMI port. So HDMI port, usually we use it to connect the monitors or screens. Okay. Next one, the fourth one, this one. It is the RJ45 port. So RJ45 port is used to connect the networks and all these things. Networks are connected using these RJ ports. And the fourth one is the sound ports or the audio ports. Sixth one is the USB port, and you know the USB port. This one is video port here, and this one is serial port. Now let's see one by one. PS2 port, as I told you, they are used to connect the keyboard and the mouse to the computer system. The purple port is used for the keyboard, and the green port is used for the mouse. However, USB port is mostly used today to connect the keyboard and the mouse to the computer. Next one is parallel port. This one you should know it, okay? These ports are used to connect printers to the computer system, and also it contains 25 holes. You should remember that, because sometimes question can come, how many hole consists a parallel port? How many holes are there in a parallel port? Or for what the parallel port is used? Or to connect what device the parallel port is used? Okay, so you should remember how many holes are there in the parallel port. So 25 holes are there in the parallel port. However, again, USB port is mostly used today to connect printers to computer systems. Okay. Next one, HDMI, high definition multimedia interface port. This port can be seen especially in laptops, also in televisions. It connects the monitor, multimedia projector, digital TVs and digital speakers to the computer. HDMI ports. RJ45 port are used to connect the network switch. This port connects computer of a computer network to the network router or network switch. We will learn about the router and about the computer network switches. Okay, these are devices which are connected to connect the computer together. That is a network. That is a network. Next one, audio ports or audio jacks. This port connects audio media like microphones, speakers and headphones to the computer systems. So there are three colors, pink, green and blue. Pink color is used to line in. Line in means to input sounds into the computer. Green is used to line out. Line out means to connect the headsets, headphones, and pink is used to connect the microphone. So if there is whatever the device you want to input sound audio to the computer, you can use the line in. For an example, before when I was small, I used a speaker in this line in one. Okay, then I was able to record sound through the speakers. I don't know whether it is possible or not, but it happened, right? Like that. So line in means if you want to input sounds to the computer, you can use this blue port. Next one is USB, Universal Serial Bus Port. Universal Serial Bus Port, everyone knows it. This port is used to connect many types of input and output devices to the computer, right? Next one is VGA, video port or VGA, video graphic adapter. This is also called the graphic port. This is also called the graphic port. This connects the monitor or multimedia projector to the computer system. The port consists of 15 holes. So how many holes in the VGA port? There are 15 holes. How many holes in the parallel port? There are 25 ports. You should remember it. Next one is serial port. This port connects devices such as modem to the computer, but actually today modems are not used because it is used as an embedded computer, like it is used inside the router nowadays, the modem. So today USB port is used instead of the serial port. So serial ports are not used these days. Only the USB ports are used nowadays. I will end up the class. Thank you for joining the class, everyone, and hope you understood the lesson. Thank you for joining the class. Until we will meet again at the next class. Have a nice day, everyone.